Charge Blade, a weapon with almost no bad matchups. A very mobile weapon with great defensive options through blocking and guard points. Huge motion values on SAED for high damage, and hit zone value independent damage that can also KO. A literal Swiss Army knife of a weapon. But how do you maximize your damage on Charge Blade? Well, I'm JinJinx.
And I'm Tuna. And we're
the Monster Hunter Math Guys. And this is Monster Hunter Meta Charge Blade builds.
And joining us as well will be a very special guest. In this video, we'll be covering some mathematically best impact file builds, as well as some niche power element file builds.
So to start off with, playing Charge Blade means joining the cult of the Diablos Tyrannus 2.
Or if you're feeling especially fancy, you could go for the Katie Horn instead for plus 10 defense and bling. Here's the main takeaway from this video. The Blows Charge Blade is pretty much the best CB in almost every situation. Jinx will have a separate musings video coming up soon for Charge Blade file math. But know that Impact File Charge Blade scales heavily with base raw, more than any other weapon in the game besides clusters. And because of this, Blows Charge Blade wins by a huge margin even compared to the next best option because of its insanely high base raw, especially when combined with the non-elemental boost.
Now, Power Element File Charge Blade can be better in niche situations, which we will discuss more when we get into those builds. But for Impact File Charge Blade, which you use against 99% of the matchups in this game, there is only the Diablos Tyrannus 2. Everything else is irrelevant.
As for augments, health is standard on Charge Blade. This is because you'll take chip damage while blocking or guard pointing, and a good SAED will heal you for over half your health. For the second augment, either attack or affinity works just fine.
Attack augment increases your file damage on SAEDs by about 2 damage per explosion. Affinity tends to increase your EFR by about 3 to 7 depending on build.
Which is better depends both on build and matchup. Realistically, the difference is pretty minor, but basically, the lower percentage of your total damage the files make up, the more worth affinity is.
Or just run affinity like me to compensate for your terrible crit RNG. And one final note in case you did not already know, always eat for the skill Feline Bombardier. It's basically a mini artillery skill and it adds 10% damage to your files. Very nice. Alright, let's get to the builds themselves. Now, despite the running joke that there is no build variety in Charge Blade because the Blow CB is so egregiously powerful, there are actually quite a few different meta build options based around the Blow/Horn CB. First off, we have a very special treat. A Charge Blade build from our friend and illustrious speedrunner AkantoreX.
Thanks for having me, Jinx. So, the set I'm presenting here is a fully packed Handicraft 5 set. I will explain as to why I chose the following skills, where I'd use this set, and why I like it so much. The core Charge Blade skills like Artillery, level 3, Capacity Boost, and to a certain degree Guard +1 are obviously present. Artillery is boosting your file damage, so its usefulness is self-explanatory. Load Up, or Capacity Boost, is essentially boosting your file damage by 20%, since it adds another file to your already existing 5 files, giving you a total of 6. Guard +1 is usually more than enough to deal with most of the monster's shenanigans. It turns, for example, Diablos and Basil's high knockback roars into a medium knockback, guard pointable and exploitable move, so that you can fling an SAD right back at their greasy faces. The next skill has become sort of a staple to every Charge Blade set, and for good reason, being Focus 3. You usually want to grab Focus 3 or none at all, since Focus 3 allows you to basically shortcut into red, enabling you to fire off your mighty SADs in quicker successions. Attack 4, Crit 4, Non-Elemental Boost, and Weakness Exploit 3 fall into the same category, where their existence is simply justified because of you wanting to deal more damage. Significantly more damage. So instead of turning monsters into fancy leather jackets, you turn them more into a deep red pulp where even scientists of the future won't be able to figure out what the hell this thing was supposed to be. I saved my favorite skill for last, that skill being Handicraft 5. A lot of people sleep on Handicraft, since they think that sharpness doesn't affect file damage, which is true. But the 2 physical hits of the SAD, which you also want to connect, a White Sharpness SAD, which also scores a crit, landing on a squishy monster's weak spot, will obliterate the monster's health pool. On most monsters, considering you land your SAD on its weak spot, will always outdamage your file damage. If you carry Sharpness or crit boosting skills, this will even be more likely. I'd recommend using this set for pretty much any encounter where you have good access to the monster's weak spot at all times. So it is a fairly bad pick for stuff like Lunastra or any JRPG final boss at the very early stages of the game. With this, I'll give the control back to Jinx.
Thank you so much, Aki, for sharing your set and silky smooth voice with everyone. Aki is a phenomenal speedrunner and excellent person to watch if you want to up your Chargeblade, Greatsword, or Hammer gameplay. Be sure to check out his channel, link will be in the description.
You may be wondering why we would go for Wex 3, AB4, and CE3 instead of just stacking more attack boost and peak performance for file damage. Teal dear, SAED files only count half of your bonus true raw.
This makes bonus true raw like attack boost and peak performance a low return on investment into file damage.
This isn't really worth it versus getting more EFR to make your other attacks hit harder, especially when you consider the motion value on SAED is so huge.
As Aki so elegantly put it, your SAED will obliterate monsters if your EFR is high enough. This is why the mathematically optimal amount of bonus true raw investment is attack boost 4. The 5% extra affinity makes this very efficient for EFR gain while also investing a little bit of damage into our files. Any more investment into bonus true raw than this tends to have lower returns than stacking other skills instead.
However, attack augments and NEB count as base true raw when they're calculated. This means they're very efficient when you're calculating into file damage.
For those of you wondering why Focus 3 is core on CB builds, I have a Jinx's musings covering that topic in depth coming very soon. But the short answer is that it unlocks red file combos that are faster, hit more consistently, are safer, and also are more flexible. In basically just every way they're better. This also means more SAEDs, which also means more dead monsters.
And to expand on what Aki said earlier about Guard 1, basically you can SAED off of any block or guard that is a medium or lower knockback. Guard 1 is enough to turn almost every attack in the game into a medium knockback if you guard point it. However, Guard 3 is needed against some monsters like Behemoth.
Alright, next up we have my personal favorite set, the Razor Sharp set. The core of this set is, well, Razor Sharp. Xenogama has made it very efficient to run Razor Sharp. Also, you get to SAED in heals! Essentially, every time you use up sharpness, you use up half the amount with Razor Sharp. And that means that it also works on guard points, which is very nice. So that means that you have 60 hits of blue in total on this set. In general, this is more than enough to finish off a hunt without hitting green. Now, this is lower than the 60 hits of blue and 20 hits of white in Aki's Handicraft 5 set. So why run this set instead? Well, when both sets are in blue, the Razor Sharp set has 30.38 higher EFR, a 6.99% total increase. The Handicraft 5 set loads a lot of your damage into those 20 hits of white you have at the start of the hunt. And simply put, I don't play nearly as cleanly as Aki does when opening a fight. So I prefer to load my damage into the middle and end of it.
This set does use attack boost 5 instead of 4, but that's only because we have an extra level 1 slot and there's really nothing else better we can throw in. This lets you have all of your standard charge blade skills. Focus 3, Artillery 3, Wex 3, Guard 1, Capacity Boost, and Non-Elemental Boost. Crit Boost 2 and Maximum Might 2 come from the pieces and make our EFR, as Jinx would say, very juicy.
Trademarked.
Power Prolonger is a side effect of the set, but is pretty nice to have. Special Ammo Boost is a side effect and also does nothing. This set is a great general build if you don't want to run the Handicraft 5 set Aki recommended earlier. It's also flexible because you can sub out Wex easily. This is useful for Lunastra or Levisioth where Wex can be hard to get. You can sub Wex for Crit Eye, Max Might, or Handicraft just by changing the charm and deco.
Next up we have another general use set, the Master's Touch set. So this set is interesting. With an affinity augment, it has 70% affinity and Master's Touch, meaning that 70% of the time you do not consume sharpness. This means that the 30 units of blue sharpness on average is 100 units of sharpness. This is the highest amount of effective good sharpness out of all of these sets. However, this set requires you to hit weak points constantly or else weakness exploit does not apply. Which means you only have 20% affinity and you shred your sharpness so fast. Also, Master's Touch does not apply to guard points. This means that if a monster has a high knockback attack that you try to guard point, you will lose a lot of sharpness. This build works well against monsters that have low knockback and lots of weak points like Odogoron.
And we have a first for the meta series, our optimal PC set. PC has a lot less options in terms of build optimization. You basically just have this set, but it's competitive even compared to console.
CB has been in a weird place because the power creep throughout the game has had a very minimal effect on it. Compared to the Razor Sharp set, which is the newest set on console, both sets have 60 hits of blue. This set only has a tiny bit less raw and is only lacking 2 crit boosts, overall resulting in 5.81% less EFR, which is not a huge difference, especially compared to the power creep in other weapon classes that have gained anywhere from 10 to 20% more EFR.
Finally, we have Power Element File Charge Blades, which is a lot of syllables, so I will be calling it Elemental Charge Blade for the rest of the video. Bottom line, it's not really that strong, but it does have its niche uses.
It mostly ends up being an issue with the numbers tuning on Elemental Charge Blade. It definitely is possible for an Elemental Charge Blade SAED to outdamage the blow CBs. And we do want more damage, right? After all, we're looking for max deeps. Well, the issue is the trade-off for that damage.
First, you lose the KO ability. Landing a KO on a monster is fairly easy with the Charge Blade. The KO window is large enough for a free SAED and 1 to 2 red file charges. And in the words of Phil Swift, "That's a lot of damage!"
Secondly, Elemental CB file damage is hit zone value dependent, and it has a very thick spread pattern. This means that your damage changes depending on which hit zone you hit and is very dependent on your SAED precision and spacing. And simply put, in some matchups, the hit zones on the monster simply aren't big enough to eat all 6 files of your SAED because it has the wide cone spread. This means that 3 of your files at the very end of your SAED can miss if you try to land the axe hit on a juicy weak point, which you should be doing. This honestly makes some matchups just inconsistent and unrealistic to land a lot of good SAEDs on. An Elemental CB is only going to be out damaging the Diablo CB if you're landing all of your files on your SAEDs on good targets.
Finally, a little bit of math. Other than the Katie Water Charge Blade, the Elemental Charge Blades in the game just have low numbers. After you cap the Elemental attack on your Charge Blade and run Capacity Boost, you can't increase the damage
on the SAEDs, which makes the overall scaling of them fairly poor.
Crit Element, Sharpness, Artillery, and Feline Bombardier don't work on Elemental Charge Blades. Only the Katie Water Charge Blade has high enough base elemental damage to make a difference. So when is Elemental Charge Blade better than Diablo's? Only against water-weak monsters and Katie.
The Water CB actually has decent stats, so it can be used against monsters like Toaster and Lava. Plus, Toaster has a pretty fat head hitbox and trips from head damage, making him a great candidate for SAEDs to the head. Same goes for Uragan. The set has all the core skills except artillery since it doesn't work for Elemental CB. Instead, we run Water Attack 3 in order to cap out the Water Elemental attack at 390. After that, because we cannot increase our file damage anymore, we basically just run a Meta-Hemoth set to maximize our damage on other attacks. 100% affinity, Master's Touch, Crit Boost 3, the works.
Water Charge Blade isn't on PC yet. The Gyora Charge Blade really isn't good enough to warrant using it over blows, so no PC builds yet.
Now, as for KT, Arc-Tempered Call to Wrath is coming out for console very soon. And since I am a Call to Wrath main, you know we are going to be putting out so many videos covering Arc-Tempered Call to Wrath. And this will include an updated console Call to Wrath builds guide. So we're just going to be including the Elemental Charge Blade builds in that video. Alright, that about does it, guys. Thank you again to Aki so much for joining us as a guest star in this video. Again, he is a phenomenal and illustrious speedrunner, so definitely check out his channel, link will be in the description. Also, I want to do a thank you to Boardwalk Hotel / Tom. He is also an excellent Chargeblade speedrunner, and he runs a WordPress site with literally every single Chargeblade build you would ever need on it. Also, check out his channel, he has some amazing speedruns on there as well, link in the description to both. Also, if you would like to see some other Chargeblade speedrunners to up your Chargeblade game, be sure to check out Rainy, Zebra, BBDW, and Mathos Brooks. Links to all of those in the description.
So as always, guys, you know what to do. If you have any ideas for future videos, or if you learned something new, let us know in the comments. If you're looking for a place to find other like-minded hunters, try our Discord, the Mathalos Nest. You can also check me out on Twitch, where I stream almost every day.
And I also do stream on YouTube. If you ever have any questions, pop in, I try to answer everyone I can in chat.
Links to all these in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell icon so you'll be notified for our next video. That should be some more meta videos, and those Chargeblade and Focus 3 maths coming up on Jinx's Musings. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Happy hunting, hunters! Bye!